Okay, chapter 4.3, comparing and ordering fractions, decimals, and percents. So here's a question, which is greater? 3/20ths or 16%? And to figure that out, you might just have to change everything to a percent, or to a fraction, or to a decimal. So let's write 3/20ths as a percent. So 3/20ths is something easy to change to a percent, and 16% is already a percent. So when we want to compare and order, we have to get them to the same place. We can put them all as fractions, we can change them all to decimals, or change them all to percents. So 3/20ths, if we want to change to a percent, we want to change it to 100. So how do I change 20 into 100? I multiply by 5, right? 5 times 2 is 10, so 5 times 20 is 100. And then we're going to multiply the 3 by the same thing. 3 times 5 is 15. So 1500ths is the same as 15%, which means that 3/20ths is the same as 15%. So which is greater, 3/20ths or 16%? Well, since 16% is bigger than 15%, then this is bigger than 3/20ths. See how that works? We just got to change them so that they're the same now. They're the same kind of thing. All right, let's look at another one. 79% or 0.08. So we have a decimal and a percentage. And this is really easy. We can change this one to a decimal, or we can change this one to a percent. Okay, so let's change 79% to a decimal. And remember that you just take the 79 and you move the decimal over 2 directions. That equals 0.79. So 79% is the same as 0.79. And for 8, 0.08 is the same. When you want to change that to a percent, you just move the decimal twice that way, and that would be 8%. So if you want to compare two percents, 79 or 8, you can tell the 79% is bigger. If you want to compare two decimals, you leave this one alone and you change this 79%, move the decimal that direction to get 0.79. Now this is something that I know we've worked on before, this idea that 100% is equal to 1. 90% is equal to 0.9. 94% is 0.94. Notice if we added a 0 here, 90 is equal to 0.90. 94 is equal to 0.94. And 100, if we add the same number of zeros in the decimal, is 1.00. So we kind of see what's happening whenever 100 is the whole thing and 1 is the whole thing. So if we're talking about 100% of the pizza, it's one pizza. 100% is one thing. 100% of the people, say you have a whole bunch of people standing around, say there's 5 of them, this looks like 6 actually, 6 of them, 100% of all the people is 6 people if that happens to be who you have. So it just kind of depends, and make sure you understand the percentages and other things like that. Basically, you're just trying to change things to a percent, or you're changing them to decimals, or you're changing them to fractions, whatever works. What if you had a 72% and you had a 19/25ths, and you have to change them all to decimals? Okay, that should be pretty easy, especially knowing what we know. 72% is the same as 0.72. And 19/25ths, 72% into a decimal, and we can do that with a fraction, 19/25ths. You just have to remember that if we want a percentage, we're looking for 100. So you change 25ths into 100 by multiplying by 4. And then we change 19 by multiplying by 4 also. Whatever 19 times 4 is, 20 times 4 is 80. So we're going to just do it the old-fashioned way. 76. So 19/25ths is the same as 76 hundredths, and since we're changing to a decimal, that is 76 hundredths. Just looks like that. Or if we went to a percentage, once we get it to 100, it works out really well. Okay, so it looks like you've got about everything you need, but let's do a couple of your problems just quick. Tell which number is greater. Let's delete this. Say we have 20% or 0.02. Now this one's pretty easy. You just have to remember that 0.02 is 2 hundredths, which is 2%. Or you have to remember to just move the decimal over twice, which gives you 2, which is 2%. Or you could change 20% to a decimal, which would be moving that over here. So it would be 0.2 or 0.20. Obviously, that's bigger than this. Other way would be to change it to a fraction. 20% is 20 out of 100. And you can see that that's bigger than 2 out of 100. All right, so that's kind of what you're doing. You're just looking at changing things around. Number them from least to greatest. Take something like 68%, 0.63, and 13 twentieths. I said 13, but I wrote 12. We're just going to write a little 13 here, and hopefully that doesn't get too confusing. So this is a percent, this is a decimal, and this is a fraction. We've got to make them all. We've got to make them all the same. This is 63, or 0.63 is the same as 63%. So if we wanted to, we could see quickly that 68 and 63, the smaller one, is the 63%. Over here we got more issues. We've got to change this into either a decimal or a percentage. And we're going to start by changing 13 twentieths into 100. Okay, so 20 goes into 100 5 times. 20 times 5 is 113 times 5. It's going to be 65. So this is 65 over 100, which gives us that idea. Oops, I wrote 60. 65 over 100, which means that it's 65%. And now we got an order from least to greatest. This one is the smallest. And this one is the middle. And this one is the largest. Okay, you got to do a little work, you got to do a little math. Now you can also do long division, but most of us don't like to do that. 13 over 20 is the same as 20 into 13. You got to add a decimal and some zeros. 2 goes into 20. 2 goes into 12 6 times. I'll put it over here because 20 times 6 is going to be 120. So 0.6 times 20 is 12.0 or whatever. I know you know how to do that. So we're going to subtract. That gives us 10. We're going to go to 100, and then 5 times 20 is 100, and that gives us 0 remainder. So we got 0.65, which we already knew. That's what we got. 0.65 is 65%. We already knew it was 65%. So you can use long division, or you can use this little trick. Hopefully you remember these tricks from earlier in the year. All right. Good luck with this lesson. Talk to me at school if you have some trouble, and I'll help you.